So for this chapter, I'm going to be showing you how to make synths for a breakdown or verse. This doesn't have to be like a super challenging and complex thing. I actually think the more simple it is, the better, because it allows the key elements to really shine through. So let's start by making a new MIDI track. We're going to hit Command-Shift-T, and then we'll add a serum onto that track. Since the drop of the track is following the root note at A sharp, I think it would be cool to break it up by having a melodic breakdown. And whenever I'm making melodic breakdowns, I usually always start with like a Reese bass, and I build my progression using that Reese bass. The Reese bass is just such a classic nostalgic sound, and it works really well as like the driving force of the progression. So let's rename this track Reese bass, and we'll hit Command-G and group it, and we'll call the group Breakdown Synths. Then let's start by finding a good preset, because I think the preset will really inspire what direction we go in for our progression. So I'm going to go into the Elysium Serum presets, and I really like this bass preset called Redono. And let's just take this track down like -10 dBs, because I'm sure it's going to be really loud, and this is what it sounds like. And that's just such a classic sound. I love the way it sounds. So let's close this. And what we're going to do is we'll make an 8-bar MIDI clip from verse 1.1 to verse 1.2. So we'll hit Command-Shift-M. So then what I like to do is I like to make sure that the correct scale is enabled in this little scale section inside the clip. So then that way we can click this scale button at the top of the MIDI clip, and it will just show us notes that are in scale. So let's start by making a note on the root note, which is A sharp. And let's drop it down an octave. And then let's solo the Reese bass and start making our progression. So I think I want the root note to be held for 2 bars, because what I want to do is almost trick the listener, because I'm imagining the intro, we're just going to be riding the root note just like the drop. So when the verse comes, I want the listeners to think that we're just going to sort of continue as is. So we're going to hold the root note for 2 bars, and then we're going to start our progression and go to a different note. And this should create such impact for the listener to hear that we've like created this whole melodic breakdown. So that's my goal for this section. And so the reason I like to hit this scale button, so we're only seeing notes in this scale, is so I can just duplicate this note and start moving it around and see which interval sounds the best. So let's just try moving this up 3. And that sounds pretty good, but I'm gonna try some different notes. Let's just move it up 1 more. So I really like how that sounds. So let's listen to it all the way from the start. Let's turn the metronome on too. Okay, so that's 4 bars right there. I think we can shorten this second note and add a 3rd note to the progression. So we'll shorten this note, and then I'm gonna hit Command-D to duplicate it, and let's just move it down a few. And that sounds great. That's like exactly what I'm looking for. So what we can do is hit Command-A to select all, and then Command-D to duplicate it. And then I'm going to focus on the last 4 bars of this progression, because if we can make that different, then we've taken a 4-bar loop and turned it into an 8-bar loop. So I think for this last bar, I'm going to take the last note, or the 3rd note, and I'm going to shorten it so it's only 2 quarter notes long. And then we'll add another note to the progression. So let's just try moving it down 1. Let's try moving it up to F. Okay, I think I like that. So what we can do is we can duplicate this MIDI clip that we made, and then we'll select both and consolidate it. And then I think this is going to be our bass line. But what I want to do is I think I want to go into the patch and adjust some things. So let's start by turning the cutoff down. And it sounds a little bit too driven, so I'm going to turn the drive down as well. Okay, I think that sounds good. It sounds a little bit driven and filtered, but there's an LFO that's modulating the filter cutoff, so I think it just sounds good giving it a little bit of movement to it. So let's listen to it with everything, and we'll just try to like gain stage it a bit.